Welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be looking at Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, but through a Catholic lens.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, so you might be thinking, how could a seemingly secular novel, resonate with my faith?
Right.
But get ready to discover how this, beloved story unexpectedly kind of aligns with Catholic teachings on things like virtue in marriage and even divine providence.
Okay.
So we'll be unpacking all sorts of things like pride and humility and the Catholic view of love and marriage and even the subtle workings of providence in the lives of Austen's characters.
I think that's fascinating how Austen, without explicitly referencing religion, manages to craft a narrative that really speaks to the heart of Catholic morality.
Yeah, totally. So let's start with this central theme of pride and humility, especially as they're kind of embodied by our main characters, Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth Bennet.
Okay. Darcy, especially at the start, really exemplifies the dangers of pride. You know, his wealth and social standing have made him, arrogant, really. He kind of assumes that Elizabeth will accept his proposal simply because of who he is. And this really resonates with the Catholic understanding of pride as a root sin, yes, separating us from God and others.
And Elizabeth, even though she's intelligent and independent, she also falls prey to pride, doesn't she?
Yes.
She's so self-assured in her judgments that she misjudges both Darcy and Wickham. I kind of found myself wondering if her initial dislike of Darcy stemmed from a wounded pride, because his first slight inadvertently exposed her own social insecurities.
That's a really perceptive point, absolutely. Elizabeth's pride, it blinds her to Darcy's true character. It makes her vulnerable to Wickham's charms.
Right.
This really shows how pride can distort our perceptions and lead us away from truth and virtue. Now, the Catholic faith emphasizes humility as the antidote to pride, and this is so beautifully illustrated in the characters' transformative journeys.
Right. Their love story kind of unfolds as they each learn humility. Darcy, after Elizabeth's rejection, he begins to truly see others. His efforts to save Lydia from scandal aren't about, social obligation, but about selfless love and compassion.
Precisely. Darcy's actions really embody the Catholic principle of caritas. Love in action. It's not just about feeling charitable. It's about sacrificing for the well-being of others, even those who have wronged you.
I see that. So it's more than just good manners. It's about spiritual growth, too. He's not seeking recognition, but demonstrating a true change of heart. And Elizabeth, witnessing this transformation, begins to question her own judgments.
Right. Her visit to Pemberley is crucial. Seeing Darcy in his home environment, interacting with his servants, forces her to confront her prejudices. She realizes her pride has clouded her judgment, and this allows her to see Darcy's true character.
I think it's interesting how Elizabeth's moment of self-recognition comes after Darcy's act of caritas. Do you think Austen is suggesting a connection between those two? Could Darcy's humility have somehow paved the way for Elizabeth to also find humility?
That's a thought-provoking question. Austen might be hinting that true humility can have a ripple effect, inspiring it in others. It echoes the gospel message that calls us to be examples of humility, drawing others closer to God through our actions.
That's beautiful. So we see how Austen uses Darcy and Elizabeth's journey to demonstrate that true humility is essential for personal growth and recognizing the worth of others, a core tenet of Catholic thought. So now let's shift our focus to how this idea of growth through humility plays out in Austen's portrayal of love and marriage. I'm curious to see how she presents different models of marriage and how they measure up against the Catholic ideal.
Well, Austen brilliantly contrasts Elizabeth and Darcy's developing relationship with other marriages in the novel, offering a nuanced commentary on what makes for a truly good and lasting union, particularly from a Catholic perspective.
Okay, so for instance, we have Lydia and Wickham. They alert impulsively, right? Driven by passion and superficial attraction. There's no foundation of shared values there or a desire for true commitment.
Right. Their relationship really epitomizes the dangers of mistaking fleeting infatuation for genuine love. Their hasty marriage lacks the essential elements that the Church upholds, like a commitment to fidelity, a willingness to sacrifice, and the intention to raise a family within the faith. It's a union built on shaky ground, ultimately jeopardizing their happiness and salvation.
Wow. Lydia's desire for a whirlwind romance blinds her to Wickham's true character, and this brings to mind the Catholic emphasis on discernment in choosing a life partner.
Yes, absolutely. The Church stresses the importance of seeking a partner who shares your faith and values, someone who will support you on your journey toward holiness. Lydia's impetuous decision is a stark contrast to this.
And then we have Charlotte Lucas, who marries Mr. Collins for financial security. prioritizing practicality over love. It makes me think about, the sacrifices we're sometimes called to make. But Charlotte's choice feels more like settling than sacrificing. Where does her decision fit within the Catholic understanding of marriage?
Well, the church recognizes the practical aspects of marriage, but it ultimately elevates marriage to a sacrament, a sacred union that mirrors Christ's love for the church. Charlotte's decision, though understandable given the societal pressures of her time, highlights a crucial distinction. Marriage, in the Catholic view, is not merely a contract for social or economic security, but a vocation, a call to holiness, and mutual sanctification through love and sacrifice.
So Charlotte's pragmatism, though understandable, falls short of the profound spiritual dimension that the Catholic Church attributes to marriage. But what about Elizabeth and Darcy? Their journey toward love seems to involve both personal growth and a deepening understanding of each other. How does this reflect the Catholic vision of love and marriage?
Elizabeth and Darcy's relationship, unlike the other examples we've discussed, embodies the Catholic ideal in several ways. It's a love that grows slowly, rooted not just in physical attraction, but in mutual respect and admiration. As they overcome their pride and prejudices, they begin to see each other's virtues and appreciate the depth of their shared values. Their love is tested and refined through challenges, ultimately leading them towards a commitment that prioritizes the other's well-being and spiritual growth.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's not just about romance. It's about becoming better versions of themselves together.
Exactly. Their journey mirrors the Catholic understanding of marriage as a path to holiness. It's a partnership where spouses support each other in their spiritual journey, helping each other grow in virtue and closer to God.
Their relationship shows us that true love involves more than just feelings. It's a commitment to shared values, mutual respect, and helping each other become the best versions of ourselves. This resonates beautifully with the Catholic view of marriage as a sacrament, a journey toward holiness undertaken together. But there's another layer to Austen's narrative that we need to explore: the subtle workings of providence in the lives of her characters. Let's unpack that after a quick break.
I think as we delve deeper into Pride and Prejudice, we can't overlook this intriguing element of divine providence that's subtly woven into the narrative. While Austen doesn't explicitly mention God, a Catholic reader can't help but notice how certain events seem orchestrated by a higher power, guiding the characters toward growth and redemption, sometimes in spite of themselves.
Yeah, I noticed that too. There are these coincidences that seem almost too perfect to be mere chance. Take Elizabeth's visit to Pemberley, for instance. She arrives just as she's beginning to see Darcy in a new light, and she witnesses his genuine kindness and humility.
The timing is indeed remarkable. Had she visited earlier, she might have been blinded by her prejudices. If she had delayed her visit, the scandal of Lydia's elopement might have irrevocably damaged her opinion of Darcy. It's as if some unseen force ensured that she saw him at his best when she was most receptive to changing her mind.
Yeah, you're right. It's hard to dismiss the perfect timing of that visit as mere coincidence.
Yeah.
And speaking of Lydia's elopement, that disastrous event, well, almost ruining the Bennet family, becomes this catalyst for Darcy to prove his love for Elizabeth and act with profound caritas.
Exactly. Darcy steps in to save Lydia, not out of social obligation, but out of genuine love for Elizabeth and compassion for her family. This act, which could have exposed him to ridicule and social disgrace, ultimately reveals his true character and allows Elizabeth to see him as he truly is.
It's a powerful illustration of how God can bring good out of even the most challenging situations. A Catholic reader might see this as an example of God's providence, working through human weakness and error, ultimately leading to a greater good.
That's a great point. Lydia's reckless actions, while putting her own soul at risk, become the unexpected instrument for both her and Darcy's redemption. It underscores the mystery of God's ways, where even our mistakes can be used to draw us closer to him.
So even though Austen doesn't explicitly mention God or faith, a Catholic sensibility allows us to see these events as more than just plot devices. We can interpret them as signposts, pointing towards a divine presence working behind the scenes.
Absolutely. And this sense of providence isn't limited to external events. It's also evident in the characters' internal struggles, leading them towards self-awareness and growth. For instance, Darcy's humiliating rejection, when he first proposes to Elizabeth, plays a crucial role in his transformation.
Yeah, it forces him to confront his pride and acknowledge his flaws. This experience, though painful, ultimately leads him to greater humility and a deeper capacity for love.
Precisely. A Catholic reader could see this as a form of spiritual purification. Darcy's pride, which initially blinded him, is stripped away through suffering, allowing him to open himself to genuine love and compassion. It reminds us that sometimes God allows us to experience trials and setbacks so that we can turn to him and grow in holiness.
And Elizabeth also undergoes a significant transformation, especially after she reads Darcy's letter and realizes how wrong she's been about him and Wickham.
That moment is crucial for Elizabeth's spiritual growth. It's a moment of self-reckoning, where she acknowledges her own pride and prejudice, allowing her to see the truth with newfound clarity.
It's almost like a conversion experience for her. The scales fall from her eyes, and she's finally able to recognize Darcy's worth and her own flawed judgment.
It's fascinating how Austen portrays these moments of self-discovery as pivotal turning points in the characters' journeys. It suggests that true love and lasting happiness require more than just external circumstances. They require inner transformation and a willingness to confront our own shortcomings.
So this idea of providence working in the novel isn't about fate or determinism. It's about how God can use our free will, our choices, and even our mistakes to guide us toward a greater good, even if it's not always apparent to us in the moment.
Exactly. Austen, whether intentionally or not, has crafted a narrative that resonates deeply with the Catholic understanding of God's active presence in our lives. It reminds us that he is always working, even in the most ordinary circumstances, drawing us closer to him and to the fullness of life he desires for us.
Austen's subtle portrayal of divine providence adds a layer of depth and meaning to Pride and Prejudice. It invites us to consider how God might be working in our own lives, shaping our choices, and guiding us toward a greater purpose, even through our flaws and missteps. Now, let's shift our focus to how Austen so skillfully portrays a spectrum of virtues and vices through her characters. It's like she's holding up a mirror to human nature, showing us the consequences of our choices and inviting us to reflect on our own moral compass.
Austen's characters embody a range of moral qualities, offering a rich tapestry for reflection through a Catholic lens. Elizabeth and Darcy, for instance, despite their initial flaws, ultimately embody key virtues.
Elizabeth, with her sharp wit and independent spirit, ultimately learns to temper her judgment with prudence and humility. She learns to see beyond superficial appearances and recognize true worth.
And Darcy, initially hindered by pride, undergoes a profound transformation, learning to practice humility, generosity, and self-sacrificing love. His actions, particularly in saving Lydia, demonstrate his commitment to justice and a willingness to put the needs of others before his own.
Jane Bennet also stands out as a beacon of virtue. She's patient, kind, and always willing to see the best in others. She embodies the Christian ideal of charity in its purest form.
However, Jane's excessive meekness might raise questions for a Catholic reader. While humility is a virtue, the Church also emphasizes the importance of courage and fortitude. In standing up for what is right, Jane's reluctance to assert herself could be seen as a missed opportunity for greater moral growth.
That's a good point. It highlights the complexity of virtue and how even seemingly positive qualities can have their limitations. Now, in contrast to these virtuous characters, we have individuals who embody various vices. Lydia, for instance, with her impulsiveness and lack of self-control, represents the dangers of unchastity and recklessness.
Lydia's actions, particularly her elopement with Wickham, highlight the importance of chastity, a virtue highly esteemed in the Catholic tradition. Her behavior not only jeopardizes her reputation, but also puts her soul in danger.
Right. It's a stark reminder of the consequences of giving in to fleeting passions without considering the moral implications or the long-term consequences for oneself and others.
And then we have Wickham, who embodies a whole host of vices: deceit, manipulation, and a complete lack of remorse for his actions. He represents the dangers of unchecked ambition and the pursuit of selfish pleasure at the expense of others.
Right. Wickham's character serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us that outward charm can mask inner corruption, and that actions motivated by pure self-interest ultimately lead to unhappiness and spiritual ruin.
Lady Catherine de Bourgh also embodies vice, though of a different sort. Her pride stems from her social status and desire to control those around her. She attempts to manipulate Darcy's life, revealing a disdain for those she considers beneath her.
Lady Catherine's character serves as a critique of worldly pride and the dangers of valuing social standing over genuine virtue and humility. She embodies the arrogance and self-importance that the Church warns against, reminding us that true worth lies in our relationship with God and our treatment of others.
And let's not forget Mr. Collins, whose character offers a critique of a distorted and hypocritical form of religiosity. He uses his position as a clergyman to advance his social standing and flatter those in power, lacking genuine piety and compassion.
Minister Collins is a reminder that true faith should bear fruit in good works and a genuine concern for others. His empty piety and self-serving behavior stand in stark contrast to the genuine humility and charity, exemplified by Darcy and Elizabeth.
Through these characters, Austen masterfully portrays the spectrum of human behavior, the interplay of virtue and vice, and the consequences of our choices. She invites us to reflect on our own inclinations, to identify those areas where we might be tempted by pride, vanity, or self-interest, and to strive for the virtues that lead to true happiness and spiritual fulfillment.
It's fascinating how Austen, without explicitly preaching or moralizing, manages to convey such profound moral insights. Her characters become archetypes, representing different moral paths, prompting us to consider which path we're choosing in our own lives. It's amazing how Austen, weaves such profound moral and spiritual insights into like a seemingly simple love story. Pride and Prejudice speaks to this universal human longing for happiness. And through a Catholic lens, we can see that it offers a vision of happiness that transcends the fleeting pleasures of the world.
Right. The novel points us towards a happiness grounded in virtue, self-knowledge, and love that's ordered towards the good, a vision that aligns beautifully with the Catholic understanding of a life well lived. It's not about denying ourselves joy, but about seeking joy in the things that truly matter, our relationship with God, our service to others, and the pursuit of virtue.
Right. Reading Pride and Prejudice through this lens helps us see that Austen isn't just telling a charming story. She's subtly exploring themes that are central to Catholic teaching: sin, grace, redemption, and the purpose of human life.
It's like she's offering a secular exploration of questions that have engaged Catholic philosophers and theologians for centuries. And in doing so, she reveals a surprising harmony between faith and culture, showing us that even seemingly secular works can illuminate profound spiritual truths.
Yeah, it's not just about abstract ideas either. Austen gives us concrete examples of how these principles play out in the lives of her characters. We see how pride can lead to blindness and suffering, while humility opens the door to love and redemption.
Right. Think about how Darcy's pride initially prevents him from seeing Elizabeth's worth. While her prejudice blinds her to his true character, it's only through humility and self-reflection that they can overcome these obstacles and experience the transformative power of love. Their journey echoes the Catholic understanding of the need for grace, to overcome sin and grow in virtue.
And their love story, once their pride is humbled, becomes an example of love that seeks the good of the other, a love that desires to see the other flourish. It's not simply about romantic passion, but about mutual support and a shared commitment to virtue.
That's a key insight. The Catholic Church teaches that authentic love is not merely a feeling, but a choice, an act of the will directed towards the good of the beloved. Elizabeth and Darcy and their journey toward each other exemplify this self-giving love, a love that reflects, in a limited way, God's love for us.
It's interesting how Austen also shows us that even the most difficult trials, like Lydia's elopement, can ultimately serve a higher purpose. This resonates with the Catholic understanding that God can bring good out of even the most painful situations.
Austen's subtle portrayal of providence invites us to trust in God's plan, even when we don't fully understand it. It encourages us to see challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities for growth, and to recognize that God can use our mistakes and weaknesses to draw us closer to Him.
So what does all this mean for us, as Catholic readers engaging with Pride and Prejudice?
It invites us to see the world through a more discerning lens, to be attentive to the interplay of virtue and vice in our own lives and the world around us. It encourages us to examine our relationships, asking ourselves whether they are founded on mutual respect, a shared commitment to virtue, and a desire for the good of the other.
It's a reminder that even in a seemingly secular novel, like Pride and Prejudice, we can find profound insights into human nature and the path to true happiness. It challenges us to seek those glimpses of truth and beauty in all aspects of culture, recognizing that God can speak to us through diverse forms of art and storytelling.
Ultimately, Pride and Prejudice through a Catholic lens affirms the importance of living a virtuous life, a life grounded in faith, humility, and love. It reminds us that happiness is not found in worldly success or fleeting pleasures, but in seeking God's will and striving for holiness in all aspects of our lives.
Well, I think we've uncovered a wealth of insights today by exploring Pride and Prejudice through this particular lens. It's remarkable how a seemingly lighthearted love story can offer such a rich tapestry of moral and spiritual reflections.
It's a testament to Austen's genius as a writer, and a reminder that the search for truth and meaning can lead us to unexpected places. Even in the most familiar stories, we can discover new depths and insights when we approach them with an open mind and a heart attuned to the whispers of faith.
This deep dive has encouraged me to look for those hidden depths, those glimpses of divine truth, in the books I read and the stories I encounter.
It's an invitation to see the world as a sacrament, a visible sign of God's invisible grace, and to find Him in the most unexpected places.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you've been inspired to reread Pride and Prejudice and to discover its hidden treasures through the lens of your own Catholic faith. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep exploring the beauty of God's creation in all its diverse forms.